Lori Daybell's marital history is marked by a series of relationships that culminated in a complex web of criminal investigations and trials. Her fourth marriage to Charles Vallow, a member of the LDS, began in 2006. The couple adopted Joshua J.J. Vallow, Charles' grandnephew, and raised him alongside Lori's daughter, Tylee Ryan. However, by 2019, their marriage had deteriorated, with Charles expressing concerns about Lori's increasingly erratic behavior and apocalyptic beliefs. He filed for divorce, saying that Lori believed she was one of the chosen ones preparing for the end times. On July 11, 2019, Charles was fatally shot by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, in Chandler, Arizona. Alex claimed self-defense, but prosecutors alleged that Lori conspired with him to murder Charles for financial gain, including a $1 million life insurance policy. Following Charles' death, Lori moved to Idaho and married Chad Daybell, the Doomsday Prophet. Lori and Chad were convicted of the murders of her children and Chad's wife, Tammy. Now Lori is facing another murder trial connected to Charles Vallow and representing herself in court. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you aboard as the case of the so-called doomsday cult killer Lori Daybell continues in Arizona. She's representing herself, and she's really putting on a show. And the reason I say a show, because a lot of what she is presenting to this jury is not based in reality. The reality that we learned during the course of this investigation, all the evidence, and 2 trials, including one where she was convicted of murdering her children and having a part in the death of Tammy Daybell. So we know who she is. We know what she's done. Now, she likes to wrap herself around being a mother, like a mother of 5, like 5 children. Not exactly. Not exactly. First of all, you murdered 2 of them. 2 more that were Charles, you failed to apprise them of the fact that their father was shot and killed by your brother. Like nothing like that. So you're not a mom. You're no longer a mother. But that's the show she's putting on for this jury, that she's a mother. And she's a wife. She's always referring to Charles as my husband, my husband, my husband. Whether it's the woman who met him on the dating app or in making her statements to the jury, wrapping herself around being a wife. I'm just a wife and a mother. That's showtime, folks. That's not reality. That's not reality. First of all, they were split up. You were living in a separate home at the time. Charles had filed. At one point, you said Charles was dead, that he was Ned Schneider, so how could you be Charles's wife if Ned Schneider took over his body? I mean, there's a lot of things here, but it's all part of the show. What is she? Well, she's someone who cheated on Charles and someone who's a convicted killer. Convicted child killer. I think that's as bad as it gets. Child killers, they're the worst of the worst, the lowest of the low in our society. And that's what she is. She is a convicted child killer, and you know, part of that motivation was the affair that she had with the prophet, Chad Daybell. So all this stuff she's doing in front of the jury may be effective, because I don't know what the jury knows. I don't know what this jury knows. But I know what I know. You know what you know. We've lived it, we've seen it. So this is a show that she's putting on inside that courtroom. All right, let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft joining us live tonight. Kelly, let's talk about this medical examiner who testified today.
Well, good evening to you, Vinnie. So the medical examiner was on the stand talking about the cause of Charles Vallow's death. He stated that it was multiple gunshot wounds. He said that Charles was shot once through the heart and then also once through the abdomen. One of the big things that the state has been focusing on is the position of Charles when that second shot took place. Was he on the floor, or, as Lori wants to say, maybe he was just falling in the air? Let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of that direct examination.
Now, you told us that you don't go out to the scene, right?
I do not know.
So you would not have seen if there were any defects on the floor consistent with a bullet strike underneath Mr. Vallow?
I did not.
If you were advised that there was a defect on the floor that was consistent with a bullet strike underneath Charles Vallow's left shoulder, would that further support the theory that he was laying on the floor there, causing that sword wound when he was shot?
It would, yes.
As far as the abrasions on Charles' knees, could those have been, you said that they were consistent with having been close to the time of death, is that correct?
They had that general appearance, yes.
And so those abrasions could have been caused by a scuffle before he was shot, is that correct?
Yes.
And not necessarily falling forward onto his knees.
Correct.
And then the abrasions on his hands as well,
What about them?
that they could have been caused from a scuffle beforehand.
Yes.
So, Vinnie, at least Lori was able to get out there on cross-examination that it's possible that the abrasions on Charles's knees were caused from this scuffle, because, of course, she wants to say that's what took place. There was a scuffle, and so all these marks on his knees are from that scuffle. But throughout this case so far, especially today, you could tell she was having a hard time formulating some of the questions because some of the witnesses kept asking her to repeat the questions, or I'm not understanding the question that you're answering me, and you can tell that flusters Lori.
As far as proving that he's shot while he's on the ground, how are prosecutors attempting to prove that?
Okay, so what they're trying to say is that this floor, that he was on the floor, and that second shot, Vinnie, the second shot that would have come to his abdomen, because it was called a sword wound. That's what the medical examiner said when he was on the stand. He described it as a sword wound, and he said, the way that looks, he said, that is textbook, the way that it looks. And it shows that Charles Vallow was already on the floor when that bullet tried to escape from his back, and it was coming up against a hard surface. And that would mean that he was already lying flat on his back that second time that he was shot. So what Lori was trying to do on cross-examination is still kind of trying to make it seem like, well, maybe Charles was still kind of falling backwards, but still maybe a threat to Alex. The state is saying he was already down. He already had a shot that went through his heart. One bullet went through his heart. He almost was dead already, even though the medical examiner said he did not die immediately. But that second shot, the state is saying, could never have been in self-defense.
That could be very crucial, extremely crucial. All right, what about the Social Security agent who testified today?
This Social Security agent, the jurors, Vinnie, had several questions for this special agent on the stand, asking if Lori continued to receive payments after their investigation was concluded. He talked about investigating Lori for fraud. This is the first time that we have seen Lori have follow-ups to the juror questions. Let's listen to a bit of that. These are going to be her follow-ups to the jury questions.
You said that I did not notify Social Security of my marriage?
Correct.
That you know of?
To my knowledge, you have not? No.
Okay. So you don't know if in Hawaii I was at the Social Security office and notified them?
Sustain. It's, again,
But you're
testifying.
So would you have all of the information from every office in that regard?
From our review of their records, there is no notification at all of you ever notifying Social Security of that marriage.
Of the records that you had access to, is that correct?
From our review of these Social Security databases, which would encompass notifications, we have seen 0 notifications.
So, Vinnie, the state is saying that Lori set this whole thing up because of money. She wanted money. She wanted money from the Social Security Administration that her children were getting. She also wanted money from that life insurance policy from Charles Vallow. So that's why she killed Charles Vallow, or had Charles Vallow killed, because she wanted the money so she could live happily ever after with Chad Daybell. Some of those juror questions, as I mentioned, asking, did Lori continue to receive the money when your investigation was concluded? He said no, showing that they did find that she was committing fraud.
Yeah, and they needed the money because Daybell was not selling a lot of those books, those self-published books. I don't know how many graves he was digging other than the ones in his backyard, so they needed the money. Let's talk about the recorded calls that were played in court today.
Vinny, and these recorded calls were of Lori calling about that life insurance policy. So jurors were really interested in hearing this again, because talking about the money, did she kill Charles Vallow for the money? So this is an interaction between her and an agent. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
What was the date of Mr. Vallow's passing?
July 11th.
And what was the cause of his passing?
Well, he was shot.
Okay.
So I don't know how I want to put that.
Okay. All right. And I hate to ask, but is it?
Yeah,
you can just say yes or no. Was it a homicide?
No, it was an accident.
An accident. Okay. I really can't give too much information, but I can tell you that the beneficiary was changed in March of this year.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what he was doing since we have 5 kids and we've been married for 15 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I know he owes a lot of people money, and I was worried if I got money, they'd be coming after me for money.
Right. No, I understand that.
But now I will be with none. So, but did he change it to one person, or was it several people?
Unfortunately, I can't release that. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I know you can't tell. We're in the business. My husband is the agent. He's the agent.
Okay.
So,
Got it. Okay.
We deal with this business all the time, so I kind of know how it works, but I'm completely surprised.
Right.
We have our 7-year-old with autism that we adopted together, so I am surprised that he would do that without telling me.
I'm so sorry.
And Vinnie, Lori, of course, said in her opening statements that there's nothing illegal about a spouse wanting to find out what happened with that life insurance policy. In fact, prior, she was talking about, this is not necessarily in this case, but she's talked about that Charles was going to try and kill her to get life insurance policy money from her. So it's been interesting to listen to those phone calls. The jurors definitely taking so many notes today, especially during that phone call.
Yeah, and more of the show. Oh, we've been married for 15 years. We have to take care of all these kids. Oh, okay. Kelly Craft in the middle of Lori's show. Thanks so much. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. All right, welcome to everyone. All right, a little warning. Little under the weather. So if I go down, Jennifer Brandt, you're in charge of keeping these two straight, okay?
I got it, Vinny.
Okay, okay.
I'll do it.
You know, someone's got to stay between them, so, all right. Let's start here. Al, she said, when asked if it was a homicide, she said, no, it was an accident.
Yes. Well, what are you supposed to say? You know, I mean,
self-defense. My brother shot him because he was attacking. Like, that's what the defense is here. Why is it inconsistent?
Well, I mean, the situation there is she's trying to get some information about a policy. And I guess if she goes, well, it was self-defense, then they're going to ask more questions. Well, self-defense how? Was it you? Was it this? So by saying it's an accident, she cuts to the chase and gets the answer that she didn't want to hear in the first place, which is, guess what? You're not the beneficiary anymore. and I can't tell you any more about this. And then she starts wallowing about I got 5 kids, one is autistic, and we were married 15 years, and like as if the agent wants to hear this. I mean, she doesn't care. And she's like, I'm sorry. And then they move right on. So, she's, you said that she's putting on a show. Yeah. She's putting on a shill. I mean, she's really just trying to perpetuate this false, presence of her as being a caring wife, caring mother, and someone who is looking to work, to put her keep her family together despite the accident that claimed her husband's death. A total shill. It's sad.
Darnell, listening to her reaction in that moment, she starts to do that little forced laugh, which is very similar to what she was doing on the body camera video right after the shooting when police responded, and she's got her shades on and she's cracking a joke with the responding officer. It's that nervous little tick that she has. And to me, it's very revealing. It's a tell. It's a tell.
I would agree. Vinny, I know you're under the weather, but let me just point out we have the same color suit on today. Sort of.
There you
go.
Men in
black. Men in black. I was jealous. So you're right, 100%. And I'll give Al some credit for his analysis here. The agent is not doing anything more than her job. And she doesn't want to hear the whole backstory about autism and all of that. Only thing that was revealed from that phone call was, geez, I didn't know he cut me out. I wouldn't have killed him, or I killed him for nothing. And so it was clear that she was disappointed that he's dead and now she's not going to get anything. And so, you're right. She started with the nervous laugh, and that was a telltale sign that she wasn't remorseful. She wasn't sad. She wasn't calling this agent saying, I lost my husband. She was saying, where's the money? How am I going to support these kids, so to speak?
Let me ask you, Jennifer, you're in the middle of all these battles in the family courts. When there's a couple that's breaking up and splitting up, living separately, one of them filed for divorce, then, unfiled for divorce, but clearly they were getting ready to move on from one another. Is it common for people in those circumstances, especially when the other one says that she's going to perhaps murder you, for you to change your beneficiary?
100%. Yes, it's in fact recommended. Unless, of course, you are court ordered to maintain an insurance policy. Sometimes you are, if there's any kind of support obligation. But notwithstanding that,
let me ask you, Jennifer, is that where she made the mistake here? Is that where she made the mistake? She should have gone through with the divorce, have the compelled life insurance, and then taken him out.
Probably, because, what I was going to say also, Vinny, is that a lot of times once you file for divorce, you're really not permitted to change any existing policies. Otherwise, people would be doing that all the time. You can imagine just changing beneficiaries. So, maybe having that divorce filing on record would have helped her. Of course, that would have drawn even more suspicion to her because, then clearly people would have been saying, oh, it must have been related back to the wife, the person who he's divorcing. But nonetheless, I think she should have checked to see who the beneficiary was on that policy before she just went ahead and had him murdered. But
yeah, Al, not the greatest plan, not the most sophisticated plan that's being alleged by prosecutors against Lori here.
No, not at all. It was. I don't know how you ask the question. Is like, am I still the beneficiary? Especially since Charles, from the testimony we've seen, was kind of concerned that he was going to be, not long to this world.
Well, he's already gone. Maybe she should have checked to see if Ned Schneider left her any insurance.
Well, Ned could have. What the thing is this: they didn't ask about that policy for Ned, and maybe the Latter-day Saints have a umbrella policy that would deal with your evil spirits.
It's unreal. Okay, good news. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the cross-examination of the person who's really like Lori's nemesis in all this. The one who ended up getting the $1 million, Charles' sister, who he trusted to take care of his children. We'll do that, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, newly released evidence from the Delphi murder case. For the first time, we're seeing Richard Allen's interrogations. What do they reveal? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
We're here to try and understand the mindsets behind your actions in this case.
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
If I was Lori Vallow right now, what would you say to me?
I'm not going to say what crossed my mind. You stupid bitch. What are you thinking? Selfish, greedy, narcissistic bitch. That's what I think. That's what you are. And that's got us to where you're in jail now and going to stay there for the rest of your life.
All of that, true that she's going to stay in prison for the rest of her life. She murdered 2 children, including their grandson, JJ. That's Kay Woodcock with her husband, Larry, speaking with former Court TV correspondent, Chanley Painter. What I want to do now, take a look at this picture, because we have a picture of Charles here holding little JJ. And so the relationship is Charles, that's his great nephew, because he's Kay's brother, and Kay is JJ's grandma. Charles, obviously, was a little bit younger than Kay, and they decided, Lori and Charles, to adopt and raise JJ. So that's the relationship there. So Kay testified on direct. It was important testimony for prosecutors. Then it was time for the cross-examination to see these two face off in court. And amazingly, the cross-examination did not last that long. Let's take a look.
Where were you on July 11th, 2019?
At home in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Were you aware at all of the relationship between Charles and Tylee?
It was, let's say, it was a bit contemptuous. It seemed like there was always a lot of drama going on, and so that's all I knew. He didn't say too much about it, and I didn't pry.
But you knew that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for a while. I'm sorry. You did know that there was some kind of contention going on with those two for a while?
Yes.
Okay. And you weren't really aware of the events that happened that morning, were you?
The morning of the murder?
Of July 11th?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Because you didn't tell me.
Miss Woodcock, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with Alex Cox to kill my husband, Charles Vallow?
No, but I saw a ton of evidence that did.
Thank you. No further questions.
What happened there? Let's bring back in Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brand. Darnell, what's happening there? It looks like Lori's sort of shriveling up with Kay Woodcock there because Kay knows everything. Like, she knows the real deal here. There's no way. She sort of did not get into attack mode. It wasn't a real cross-examination. It's like under 2 minutes. She's on and off. What are your thoughts about Lori's approach there and what it revealed to the jury?
I can tell you that it hurt deeply if you're on cross-examination and someone says, you know, I saw a ton of evidence that said you committed murder. And then she said, "Thank you very much." I mean, I think she meant not thank you very much. That really hurts. So you know, it's a skill to cross-examination. You know, I perfected it. They call it the cross-land cross, and she needs a little bit of that training because she didn't actually execute that quite well. I have to sit down with her.
Al right now is trying to sign up for the course. The cross-land cross. We'll move on from there. But Jennifer, here's the other part, right? She's not a lawyer. So when she can deliver an opening statement, right? You're just telling a story. She can get emotional, and it was effective. But when it's time for cross-examination, you have a witness who is like running all over you and testifying to things that aren't necessarily admissible. She doesn't do anything because she doesn't know what to do.
That's right, Vinny. But, you know, I have to say, watching this, I don't think she's doing a terrible job as her own lawyer. I mean, she doesn't know what she's doing, and she does need the cross-land cross for sure. But on the other hand, she is composed. She's not acting totally crazy, and she's able to deliver these questions. So just from those very basic steps, a lot of people couldn't even do that as their own lawyer. So, you know, I'll say that she's doing okay, not very effective in her trial, but just as a matter of keeping sort of a decorum and keeping things calm, it seems that she's able to hold it together.
Yeah, she's not Darrell Brooks, Al. I mean, she's under somewhat of control, but I feel like this is the part of the case that makes a big difference. And I look at this case, and it's a potentially difficult case for prosecutors because Alex Cox is the one who pulls the trigger. He's got a little boo-boo on the back of his head. There's the passage of time between when it happens and the actual charges. So there are some issues that a great attorney could really, you know, potentially raise a doubt in this case. But the way it's coming out with the cross-examination and objections, et cetera, that's where she's losing a lot of the advantage that she gets by telling her story firsthand.
Well, they're putting her into a bit of a bad, they're squeezing her into a corner by making her repeat questions, making her, you know, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't understand. And that's very frustrating to someone who doesn't do this for a living. They're also, you know, the points that she could be making, she's not making. The 2 years that this thing languished as a justifiable homicide is not really being addressed by her. And the last comment that was done there, you know, with regards to, I've seen plenty of other evidence, she should have immediately said, Your Honor, that's not answering my question. You know, I request that be struck. And it probably would have been, and it would have been, you know, she would have been jury instruction not to pay attention to that. Because, you know, if there was so much evidence, why did it take 2 years for them to charge?
Yeah.
So that, you know, that is like the question that would have ended my cross on her. Like, really? That much evidence you had, right? Yeah. It took 2 years to charge. Is that true? Yeah. Thank you. No further questions.
And you know,
and then walked off from there.
In addition to the cross-land cross, Darnell, they would need Al's evidence, right? Like, that's the other thing she doesn't have. She doesn't understand what is admissible, what isn't admissible, what questions are proper, what questions are improper. She's unable to respond to any objections because she just doesn't have that knowledge, which is expected to not have that knowledge. But that's, to me, that's the big difference here. And I agree with Jennifer. She's doing much better than most pro ses that we've seen on court TV through the years, but not as good as some of the lawyers we've seen.
Yeah, and I think that part what I was talking about, I think that's subject to the motion in limine in terms of the length of time that it took for the police officers to bring about an arrest. So that one would have been kind of tricky. And also, she said, the witness said that, no, I didn't see this or witness this, but I have a bunch of evidence. So you really sometimes can't get into a cat fight with witnesses. You got to save it for the appropriate space. So as Jennifer said, I think she kept decorum and she's shown some professionalism. So I think there's a lot of points to be gained there.
All right. Think Tank staying with us. Coming up next, how did family members learn that Charles died? This is, I believe, a really, really bad look for Lori Daybell.
Do you know who Charles Vallow was?
Yes.
Who was he?
He was my stepfather.
And when you say stepfather, how was he your stepfather?
He married my mom.
How long was he married to your mom?
Over 10 years.
All right. And what was your relationship like with Mr. Vallow?
He was my dad. It was good.
So, is it fair to say you were close with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you recall when Mr. Vallow passed away?
Yes.
Or Charles Vallow? If I say Charles, we understand who we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Do you recall when he passed away?
Yes.
When was that?
July 11th, 2019.
How did you hear about him passing away?
My mom called me and told me that he had a heart attack.
Not exactly a heart attack. Not exactly. This is one of those parts of this story that I think sort of expose Lori and Alex, because that's Colby Ryan, her son, stepson of Charles, and he's told a lie about how as you heard him, his father died. Take a listen now to Kay Woodcock, Charles' sister, talking about how she found out Charles was dead.
It was on July the 12th. I was at a nail salon in Lake Charles, my granddaughter and I, and I got a call from his oldest son, Cole, and he said, "Hey, what is going on? I just got a text from Lori, and she said Dad's dead." And I said, wait, what did you just say? And he told me again, and I said, something's wrong with that. That can't be true. And I said, have you tried to call her? And Cole's like, yes, she won't. I'm trying calling, she's not answering. He was freaking out, and I was like, okay, Cole, just give me a minute. Let me think about this. Let me see, and I'll call you back. I promise, as soon as I can figure this out. So I called my husband to tell him, and he said, okay, well, I told him that what the Cole said, and he said, hey, let me call you back in a minute. And so I was still at the nail salon trying to get out of there, and he called and he said, he's dead. I Googled him, and he's dead. Alex killed him yesterday. And I mean, that was just like, it was horrible.
This is more of Lori's show, Jennifer, because she said this is a family tragedy. Well, in a family tragedy, this is not how we treat family when we tell them that there's been a tragedy and someone died. This is not the way it's done.
That's for sure. I mean, they're close family members, direct family members, and to find this out sort of online or through another person. I mean, it is troubling, and I think it does show a weakness in Lori's case for sure. I mean, why didn't she call them if she was so upset about what happened, and if it was truly an accident, and didn't know that it was going to be happening? You would think she would have let his family know right away and tell the truth to her own children about what happened. So I think there's a problem there for sure.
Huge problem. I want you to take a listen here to Cheryl Wheeler, who's Charles' ex-wife and the mother of his boys. And Chanley Painter, former Court TV legal correspondent, spoke with Cheryl. Take a listen on this issue of notification.
Is it true that she texted your sons about Charles' death?
Yes, my son was coming. He was at TCU and drove down to Austin for the weekend and received the text literally walking in my front door. So he shows me this text, and I go, no one does that. And so I said, it must be a typo, must be a typo. So we instantly jump on Google and we see it because it was the next day. And that's when they said that Charles was beating Lori and Alex had to come in and save him. And we knew exactly that was not the case. Charles was never any sign of violence.
Al, this is another, this is a family tragedy, ladies and gentlemen. No, this is not how family treats family when someone passes away.
Yeah, but you have to take a look at it from the standpoint of how would I explain this away if I was in a situation and I was using the crossland, crisscross, make you jump exam? I would say, listen, under the situation, my brother killed their father. My brother killed their mother, their brother. My mother killed, and my brother killed this person. And, I didn't know how to explain this. I didn't know how to talk. I thought they were going to hate me for it. And I didn't know what to do under the circumstances. So, you can try to explain it away that way by just saying, listen, I was mortified that Alex killed him. And I was mortified that I was being beaten by him. I was mortified that I was, my life was in danger by him. And I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to explain it to them. So, that's, once again, under the crossland crisscross, make you jump exam, that's how I would handle it.
Yeah, let's take a listen, though, because Lori and her own family as well is not being direct with everyone. Here's Adam Cox, her own brother, talking about how he found out.
During the day of July 11th, at any time, did you learn that Charles Vallow had been shot?
No.
So Lori did not call you and tell you that Charles had been shot?
No.
Alex didn't call you to tell you that he'd shot your brother-in-law?
No.
Anyone in your family talked to you about it?
Nope.
How about the next day, Friday, July 11th? Did Lori tell you Charles had been shot?
No. I was talking with Eric saying something doesn't feel right. I haven't heard from Charles, and usually he would text me or send me a message or something. And then Eric asked me, he goes, well, what's his last name? And I said, Vallow. And he was on his computer and he just Googled Charles Vallow. And he said it popped up that he's been killed by his brother-in-law.
Now, Darnell, in this case, Alex and Lori are both Adam's brother. Not even a phone call. Oh my goodness, Adam, you won't believe what happened here. There's no discussion. It's like just all right. Oh, nothing to see here. That makes no sense to me. That's not how family deals with a tragedy. If she had a tragedy, then she'd probably call everyone in the family and say, "Oh, you won't believe this. Charles almost killed Alex. Alex had to defend himself." None of that. None of that is happening.
Yeah. So. From a layman's standpoint, I get what's happening here. So they're trying to show that normal people would have done this. But we got to remember the prosecution has a burden of proof, and they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt each and every element of the crime charge. And so while they may land some soft points by saying that, other people would have done this, maybe in closing, as Al indicated, she could tell the jury that, she was laboring under some stress, or they had some other issues, or perhaps she could have done more to tell, but she was trying to figure it out herself. Whatever she says, I don't think it's a major blow. It's not the smoking gun for sure.
Not the smoking gun, but runs contrary to innocence in all of this. Jennifer, let's put it all together now, what we're just learning in this show. You take the lying about what happened to the family, or not even telling some members of the family, your own family included, and it's you and your brother who are involved in all of this. Then you've got lying to the life insurance agent as well about what happened here. All of this, you know, creates a course of conduct that just runs contrary to every instinct that is part of a family tragedy.
That's for sure. I mean, we can kind of see it, and I think the jury will see it. There really are no excuses. So we can talk about all the posturing that she could do, and you know, making sort of excuses. And maybe if she did have a lawyer who could help her, I mean, that would be more effective for sure. But I mean, the facts are the facts, Vinny, and it's hard to cover them up. I mean, we're getting to the bottom of this now. What happened? You know, he got shot. She didn't give any explanation to anybody, didn't notify any family member, his own family, her family, nobody, and then tries to get insurance money. So it's looking pretty bad for her.
Sometimes the pieces fit together. We'll see. We'll see. They're still marching through this case. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt, thank you all so much. When we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, finally, we are seeing some of the evidence from the Delphi murder case that convicted Richard Allen. Does this evidence make things clearer or raise more doubt? Tonight, we investigate.
Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
Doomsday Cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself
on charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Karen Reed, jury selection continues on Tuesday. They're hoping to have opening statements, but looks like jury selection. Matt Johnson, Court TV crime and justice reporter, has the latest from Dedham, Massachusetts tonight.
Hey, Vinny, we are heading into a 10th day of jury selection here in Dedham, Massachusetts. Day 9 ends with the same number we started with, a total of 16. That includes 8 men and 8 women already seated on this jury. The Commonwealth looking to seat at least 18 before opening statements can begin, which is as early as Wednesday. Today, there was also a number of new court filings in the case, including a journalist from Boston Magazine and a blogger known as Turtle Boy. Both filed motions to be excluded from sequestration so that they can cover the trial, even though they're on the witness list. And the Commonwealth also filed a notice that prosecutors do plan to use Karen Reed's interviews and statements outside the courthouse during the retrial. Vinny?
All right, Matt is in the middle of it up there. And yeah, we're going to have 2 huge trials going on at once here at Court TV. And obviously, you'll have in-depth coverage with us each and every night for what's happening with Lori Daybell in Arizona and Karen Reed up in Massachusetts. So it looks like opening statement on Wednesday in that case. And yeah, it's a big one. I'm calling it the retrial of the century, folks. Doesn't get much bigger than this retrial. All right. This is what I need you to do right now, though. We have a missing child who needs your help. Take a close look. This is Angel Richey. Angel's been missing since April 10th of 2025, missing from Grand Junction, Colorado, just 16 years old. This is important. Angel may be in need of medical attention, so please pay close attention to her. If you see her, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST. We can call the Grand Junction Police Department in Colorado. That phone number's up on the screen. Let's see if we can get Angel to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.